You would definitely have this question that why do I need to make my CV stand out in comparison to others? If I've achieved everything, why would the recruiter not call me for an interview? But see, as you look at the data, you'll realize that there are, for example, if there are 10 vacancies in the organization, more than 1,000 applicants apply for that particular role, right? So it's very difficult for the recruiter to actually pick something out of those 10,000 to fill those 10 vacancies properly. And to bypass all of that competition, you need to follow certain things, you need to have certain tips up your sleeves. Okay, so with that said, I think that's the motive of this today's video, and I'm going to be discussing it right away. First point is that select the keywords from the job description. Now, for example, if you're applying for a mergers and acquisitions role in an organization, the keywords that might have been given in the job description could be something like somebody who's well versed with due diligence, somebody who knows how to draft contracts such as shareholders agreement, share purchase agreement, share subscription agreement, or somebody who's well versed with Companies Act, companies rules and regulations, somebody who knows how to look at the incorporation documents, etc. So make sure that you replicate all of those keywords within your resume at different places, and don't overdo this, don't lie about it. If you have similar or same experience in that field, try and use the keywords that are mentioned in the job description rather than using some terminology that you've defined for yourself, right? The second thing is quantify everything. Now, quantification means that you sort of give a number, you sort of give a proper value to something that you've achieved. So instead of saying that I've achieved great profits for this company, you can say that in the last financial year, I achieved, there was an increase in 40% profits from the previous financial year. Or in the last quarter, the profits for this company achieved were this much. Instead of saying that I made huge number of sales for this particular organization, you can say something like that the sales for the organization in the last quarter were amounting to $4.5 million in revenue, and this is the result that I've achieved. So it's easy for somebody to attach credibility to your claims that you've made in your resume because you've quantified it. So they'll become curious as to how you've achieved such great targets, and they would definitely want to interview you. The third thing is that you check mark all boxes, in the sense that anything that's relevant to your industry and profession should be sitting on the resume. So for example, if you're applying for a litigation role at a chamber and you don't have a bar council registration, definitely that's a minus on the CV. Or if you're applying to a particular organization as a software engineer and you don't have the skill set required to do that job, for example a certification in coding, etc., and you don't have that, that's definitely a minus on the CV. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to get a job just because you didn't have a bar council certification or you didn't have that particular certification in coding language. It's just that it's easier for them to pick somebody who has everything. It makes the employer's life easier, right? And they would definitely want to pick that over anything else. And which is why make sure that they have no reason to reject you just because you didn't have that one particular thing which the other candidate had, right? I hope that makes sense. Fourth is draft your resume professionally. Now again, going back to the same example, if you're applying to a legal industry, if you're applying to a legal organization dealing with legal services, etc., you can't have a design heavy CV. You can't have a CV that's filled with colors, that's filled with fancy borders and photographs all over the place, logos of organization, etc., right? You need to have a resume or a CV slash whatever the document is that matches the vibe of your industry. So like say for legal industry, it should be plain, clear, simple, concise, not and devoid of all colors, right? So basically that's the vibe of the legal industry. So according to your own industry, definitely you need to draft the resume accordingly. Now a follow-up on this is that also make sure that the resume is not cramped, it's easy to read, it's accessible to read. You've not randomly put in a lot of pie charts and flow charts for somebody to have a look at and understand what you've achieved at your previous organizations. Make sure that there are no typographical errors, because that also puts off a lot of recruiters, right? So these things will definitely make you stand out in front of the recruiter. And the last and the most underrated but the most efficient technique here is that try and get somebody's reference at least for an interview. If not for a job, get for an interview. Because see, if you just, let's understand this through the help of an example. If there are 500 applicants and one out of those 500 has come through a reference of a team member within the same organization, definitely that candidate is going to have better credibility and is going to be interviewed first amongst the other candidates, right? So if not possible from the same team, try and get it from somebody within the same organization. If not from the same organization, try and get that reference from somebody within the industry, so that at least the credibility of that person gets attached to your name, because they are giving you a reference, which means that they've placed their faith in you, right? So yeah, I think these are the 5 points that I wanted to discuss. With that, we've reached the end of the video. Please subscribe to this video, leave your comments, tell me if you have any doubts, tell me if you have any video suggestions, and I'll see you next week on Sunday.